room. So now I have a space where I can speak and invite people up to talk with me about the Tao of the day. Hello, everybody. This is Tao of the Day. In this, this is where I invite you to come up and ask me for a number between 1 and 81. I'm also posting this on Instagram. I'm going live on Instagram today, which is a rare occurrence. I don't do that very often, but here I am, going live on Instagram and on Wisdom. So this is Tao of the Day, and today I am here at a reasonable hour. It's 8:30 Central Time, and if anybody has a number between 1 and 81 you want to share with me, I would love to have you join me. Um, hey, Graciella's over here on Instagram, and nice to see you. Who Willow? Will, what's going on? How are you? Oh yeah. So okay. So here we are. This is too much. I'm going to have to not pay attention too much to Instagram, and I'm just gonna kind of stick on Wisdom. If anybody wants to join me on Wisdom, come on, give me a number between 1 and 81, and I will read your Tao for the day. We have someone coming up. Graciela, how are you? Yes, I am over here on Instagram and on Wisdom because I know the Android is coming out, so I'm doing both. Graciela, how's it going?
Oh my gosh, that's awesome that you're on Wisdom at the same time as Instagram. You know, I do that too sometimes at night when I hold my lives.
I've seen it. I know Dr. Rao does it. I wanted to see,
Yeah.
and who knows,
It's a
I
little
this
hard. I can appreciate how it's like you're all over the place, especially in the beginning.
yeah, because now there's video and it's in front of me, and I have to manage that and figure that
Right.
out, and it's I just think I have to pay attention to Wisdom and not the Instagram, and then just kind of like stay on
Yeah.
camera, and that's really all I got to do. Keep looking at
Right.
doing what I do, because there's definitely I'm much more comfortable on Wisdom than I am on
Of course.
Instagram. So we'll just stay here, and then we're just gonna post it, and
Hmm.
whatever happens happens with it. So
Yes. All right. Well, I'm proud of you for, going outside of your way to try all these new things and be more inclusive.
yeah, absolutely. And if I can, if I can bring Tao of the Day to more people, that's something that I would love to do, because the Tao is something that really guided me in my growth,
Mm-hmm.
and helped me understand who I am, help me do the work of recovering myself, as I like to say.
Yes, for sure. And having all of these amazing conversations has definitely helped all of us heal in such a blessed way that we were not expecting.
Yeah, Wisdom really kind of really
Yeah.
really filled a gap, I think.
Oh,
That
for sure. Ding, ding, ding. There you go. Filling in a gap.
that's right.
Genius. Oh my gosh. Well, I started my day with a blessing, a huge blessing. I texted my intuitive coach is actually all the way in England. We see each other once a week, and she sends me homework, right? Handouts and whatnot. And she sent me this meditation, and for over a week, I was weary of asking her if I could share it with the
Hmm.
collective, if I could go ahead and guide that same meditation, giving her credit, of course. I'm not going to just think it's mine. It's not. And she said, yes. She said, please do. And I'm so, so excited that I get to share Sally Morningstar's rainbow meditation with the collective. It's going to be magical,
Wonderful. When
especially with
that
all
happen?
of the things that's going. I don't know yet. I don't know when I'm going to schedule it, and I would like to, promote it. Everything that's going on in Florida with the governor and with that bill about don't say gay in the classroom. We need light, we need color, and we need love. So I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
well, let's pick a number
Hmm.
and see if there's
Let's
anything
do
there.
let's do 70.
70. Wonderful. 70. Off we go. I am going to, because you are a buddy, I am going to use you to. I'm just gonna tell you that because I'm unprepared. So I need my piece of paper so that I can write down who picked what and everything. Um. Okay. So my teachings are easy to understand and easy to put into practice. Yet your intellect will never grasp them. And if you try to practice them, you'll fail. My teachings are older than the world. How can you grasp their meaning? If you want to know me, look inside your heart.
And the me is the Tao, right? The teachings of the Tao are easy. Is that it?
Yes,
It's not
yes.
necessarily mine. We're not talking about me and what I teach. It's the Tao telling me that the Tao's teaching. Is that it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is. So this is the author, right? So Lao Tzu, right? So my
Uh-huh.
teachings
Uh-huh.
are easy to understand and easy to put
Okay.
into practice, and his teachings um, are that of the Tao. Like what is here in the Tao is easy to understand and easy to put into practice.
Right.
Yet your intellect will never grasp them, and if you try to practice them, you'll fail. My
Mm,
teachings are older than the world. How can you grasp their meaning? So yes, the Tao, my teachings, like that. If you want to know me, if you want to know me, look inside your heart. Me
right.
meaning the Tao. Yeah. So
Yes.
I would say that although this is written, this is also maybe something that we could look at Lao Tzu maybe having intuited or having what's it called, like when you bring in a spirit and have them
Mhm.
speak through you. What is that called?
Mediumship.
Yes, right. So like
When you're a medium.
through being a medium, like that's the the great I, the great
Mhm.
yeah. So my teachings are easy to understand and easy to put into practice. Yet your intellect will never grasp them. And if you try to put it
Mm.
into practice, you'll fail. My teachings are older than the world. How can you grasp their meaning? If you want to know me, look inside your heart.
I have an answer to how can I grasp the meaning. Dr. Rao comes to mind. And because this reminds me about, see, my moon is in Virgo.
hmm
And with my moon in my chart being in Virgo, there's a need for relentless productivity.
Yeah,
And I've always been like that. I've always been a creator. I have always been a writer. I've always put projects together. I was mediocre with my grades in high school because I was in every club. It's
yeah,
like and it's not necessarily that I wanted to belong. It was, what can I create with this collective, and what can I be a part of with this other collective. Like, it wasn't necessarily, oh, I just want to be everyone's friend. Actually, when I graduated high school, I had no friends because I was friends with everyone and I had no
right.
specific cliques.
Yeah.
um but I feel like it all comes down to just be.
It does. Like I see this and I mean, I know you've heard me probably say this before. I like to take that last line and then always bring it back to the first line and try and
Yes.
understand that how the last line and the first line relate because as we read through the Tao, we can definitely like break it up into different parts, right? We have my
Right,
teachings
please.
and easy to put into practice. Your intellect will never grasp them. And then it goes, how can you grasp them? If you want to know me, well, how does that all like relate? Well, if you want to know me, look inside your heart. This relates to this first section of like, my teachings are easy to understand and easy to put into practice, yet your intellect will never grasp them. And if you try to practice them, you'll fail. But if we connect that to this last line, if you want to know me, look inside your heart. It's not about it's not about practicing to get better. It's not about doing
Right.
this to understand. You
Hmm.
cannot do that. Just you can't just practice my words and understand what I'm saying here. You
Right.
have to look inside your heart. Looking inside your heart will get to know the answer because the
Right.
answer isn't so clear. It's not about what do you do. It's about who are you. And
Yes,
when I have
exactly. Oh, I know.
right.
I say that all the time. And when it comes to relationships, oh my gosh, it's not about who you want to grow old with. It's about who you want to grow old to be. Like, what kind of old person do you want to be? Not your partner. I mean, let's focus on you. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think like bringing those two together really kind of help us understand this idea of like you have to look inside your heart, because for you, when you look outside of yourself, if you intellectually understand, well, in order for me to get good grades, if that's your goal, you have to not be a part of a group, or you have to do something, you have to like act some way or whatever. You have to, like you start to intellectualize, you
Hmm.
start to understand and
Rationalize.
rationalize, and all of those
Yes.
things start to kind of fall into place. And as those things fall into place, you start to make rules around that. And that's why my teachings are easy to understand and easy to put into practice. And that's true. Like you could go through here and read the Tao and be and try to do those things. But
Hmm.
if you intellectualize doing it, if
Right.
you try to rationalize, if you try to understand, you will never
Mm.
grasp. And if you try to
Mm.
put them into practice, you'll fail if you're only trying to approach this from the aspect of intellect.
Right. If you're trying to appease the ego
Right. Then
with
you,
this or that, or this person or that person, it's just nonsense.
yeah. And if you approach this from an intellect, like if and when we talk, when there's Tao's, there are chapters of the Tao that say, like when you lose the Tao, you move to good things. When you lose good things, you move to morality. When you lose morality, you go to ritual. And there's always this breaking down of stuff as it relates to intellect, as it relates to you trusting your intellect and you trusting
Mm.
what it looks like to do good, rather than just doing good from your heart.
Mm.
And at the end here, it says, if you want to know me, look inside your heart, because your heart is going to guide you. I was talking to a potential client yesterday, and I had to tell them like directly, because one of the things that they were struggling with was evil. And I said, well, there's evil inside of you, and that's okay. It's not bad. We think that evil is bad, but that's just the definition that we give it. And it's like, like things that you see as evil might be the best thing. But
Mm.
if you have this intellect of understanding what evil is,
Right,
then
right.
you can never embrace that part of you, because we all have evil within us. We all have the possibility of murdering somebody,
Mm.
and if we do not accept that part of us, if we do not look at that part of us and say that's worth loving as well, that doesn't mean we're going to go out and murder somebody, but we have that potential and that exists within us.
Right, right.
And when we can embrace that, when we can look in our heart and embrace that, then we can put into practice the teachings of the Tao more, because we are in a space of neutrality, not in a space of A is good, B is bad, and we have to avoid B and be A. And now we are not only separate from God, because we are in our own body, right? Because we
Hmm.
see
Hmm.
ourselves as separate, but we start acting and thinking as separate as well, rather than embracing the oneness of all things.
Yes, yes. Oh, thank you so much. So good. I love that. And I love that I'm the very first, which means I'm still gathering, my reasonings as I get ready for my day. The beauty of spring forward is that we start getting up later, even though we should be getting up earlier.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
slept. I slept in today.
yes. I
Yeah.
mean, Elijah didn't even make a sound until like 8:40, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's almost 9. I need to get on with my life. And so, yeah, here we are. But oh,
And
such
I'm
a blessing.
also,
Thank
I'm
you.
also, I want to kind of bring this back to the meditation that you're going to share as well. Like
Yeah.
because in a meditation, one is quietly looking within.
Right, right.
And as you're looking at the Florida rules and laws and things that are happening in the world right now, so much can be
Hmm.
expressed
Right.
intellectually
Hmm.
to win over support.
Right.
And really, what we want to do and what a meditation would do is have you look in your heart
Yes.
rather than intellectualize an explanation. And when we look out, we say, I don't care whose side you're on. Look inside your heart and just love a motherfucker. You know what I mean? Just
Right. Yeah.
love somebody as they are, where they are, how they
Well,
are.
and here's the thing, and this takes me back to church talk, but you know, Heavenly Father wants you to help at least one soul come to the fold, right? Like we tend to hear this. Well, as it turns out, it's not someone else. There
Right.
doesn't need to be a desperation about bringing someone else into the fold. Bring yourself, love
Yeah.
yourself, save yourself, right? And with that mindset, I feel like it drives me to the meditations and to host a group where people can heal, because that's the way I see it. If you participate and you really take it in, my hope is that you will feel good enough to go out of my meditation and do some good. And I feel like I that's the way I do my part. I don't like to share politics in social media. I'm a huge proponent of sharing specific things so that my algorithm knows, what to put out there, so on and so forth. I mean, if you complain about the negativity that you see someone else's in someone else's post, it may be that you're seeing it because you've shared similar content in the beginning or before. We could be here all day talking about how we are the soul of the algorithm. That's really how I say it. But and so with that, everything that's going on with politics, you're not going to see me posting about it. I do something about it. I'm going to host a rainbow meditation and hopefully people receive it. And it's like that's the best that I can do aside from signing a petition, sending in a donation. You're not going to see me in the pickup lines, but I do my best. Thank you so much, Martin John.
Absolutely. Thank you,
I
Graciela.
love you. I'll be listening.
Love you as well. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. I'm going to bring up Dr. Rao and then Sharente. Dr. Rao um, is waiting in the wings, and Dr. Rao is someone that I picked up this practice of doing Instagram and wisdom at the same time. Let's see. Um, oh, Dr. Rao stepped away, so Sharente's up. Sharente, my buddy Sharente. How you doing, Sharente?
Hello, Martin John Garcia. It's so nice to talk to you. Like, I've been missing you, and I'm like, but it's okay. When it's time for the Tao Te Ching for me, it will be. And
It
it's
will
going to be
be,
all right.
and it's gonna be all right. And we can sing about it and everything. It's beautiful.
Oh,
How have you
yeah.
been? How have you been?
I've been good, and I was it literally in my emails because sometimes I decide to check my emails and my social media in the morning because I made my algorithm really Sharente friendly, so it's not like I'm seeing a whole bunch of "Ugh" in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I just checked my email and it said you've been approved for your business checking account, and I'm like, I'm not going to start crying, but I have been putting off this for 3 months, and I finally
No.
did it. And I'm so happy that it's finally done, and I just have to sign into the account now. And here I did it. I faced the fear. I probably
Yes.
wasn't going to get it approved, and I was approved.
That's an interesting kind of way of kind of looking at it. We often put off things way longer than we need to when they'll only take 10 minutes to do, and then they're easy, and there's nothing, like that we have to nothing that we have to fear in it. But then also, how you put it, I was approved, you know
Yeah.
like like I'm going on this dark retreat in a couple weeks, or in a week from tomorrow. I'm leaving, and I have to have a negative COVID test, and that test is going to tell me if I'm approved to go to another country, and there
No,
is
I got
that,
you. Because here,
there.
I've been listening to you, sir, and I will say this is even for all of my international trips, I've always were hesitant, even before COVID. You feel me? Like, hey, the country
Hmm.
shut down, and you know what China says, forget everybody, and they are going to say nobody can come back to China, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Because that's where I generally went to Asian countries. So
Mm.
I'm like, well, I'm happy that I get to go and stuff like that, and even when I get there, I'm happy that my China visa is still in good standing, so I can stay longer than 3 days. But
Yeah.
my thing is that and every moment I had to pray, especially when during that time that I was traveling, I wasn't 100% healthy. And when I say that, I mean that I had an infection in my own body that I couldn't spread to nobody else because it came from
Yeah.
within me. That was
Yeah.
kind of come out of me. And they have a security check where you walk and they're checking your temperature. So I was always praying, saying, God, don't let my temperature be up. God, please don't let my temperature up. I want to be able to stay. I want to be able to enjoy this.
Yeah.
And I always was able to. So I'm just going to say from me to you, and I understand it a little bit. You got
Hmm.
this. You
Oh
got
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
This
I'm
ain't
not.
nothing but a chicken wing.
Even and what was that at the end?
I said, this ain't nothing but a chicken wing. Just a
Oh
chicken wing.
yeah, no, I gotcha. But like it's because I've been doing a little more meditating these days, just because I'm going on this retreat. So it's important to practice that. It has been in the fore, and I've been, oh yeah, look at that, just kind of observing it, just observing like, oh, I am, like there is a little anxiety about like it's not in my control. You know, and I've had in the past when I traveled, when I go through customs and all that, I'm like, oh, authority is going to tell me if I'm approved or not, like, and that would,
Same. I'm like,
yeah,
am I allowed to go? And then I even got global entry just for, I'm not playing with y'all.
that's right. I don't want to play. I don't want to play at all. I want to play, like and I've gone to a lot of different countries and stuff, and it's always been like, oh no, like, and it's always been fine. No one's ever turned me away. No one's ever put me in a room. No one's ever like, but now when like the last time I came into Chicago, I was leaving Virginia the other day, and I came into Chicago, and my bag was marked as to be searched, and I wasn't even worried. I was just like, oh, I'll just wait here. Like, and I just recognized that I didn't have that anxiety that I usually or used to have around it. And I don't know where it went, and I don't know when it went, but it wasn't there, and I was cool with that. Whether it comes back or not, that's possible. But like, I'm not holding on to it. So
No, I got
so
you and I love it.
let's
I'll
see.
pick a number. I will. I will. 10. I'll
Yeah,
pick 10.
10. We're going to pick 10. We're going to move. We're going to stay here in the Stephen Mitchell. If you coax your mind, can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? Can you let your body become supple as a newborn child's? Can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but the light? Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? Giving birth and nourishing, having without possessing, acting with no expectation, leading and not trying to control. This is the supreme virtue. This was just what we were talking about.
Exactly. And for me, like, it's everything I've been doing in regards to my healing journey of where I am today, kind of thing with everything.
Mm-hmm.
When I say everything, I'm talking about my spiritual journey and my physical being journey and my mental health healing journey. And my thing is that I've had to let go of a lot of other concepts of things that no longer really served me, and I had to learn how to integrate those. And when I say integrate, because a lot of people are like, oh, I need to release this anger, da 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 da. But anger is a part of you. It's one of your emotions. It will
Yes,
never
ma'am.
disappear
Yes,
from you.
ma'am.
So why not just integrate it to see these are the lessons I learned. This is how I feel when I am angry. And these are the things that I will not focus on to bring this up. Or I will say, you know what? I'm going to apply a different emotion to that circumstance, and I'm gonna move forward with that. And for me, it's about integrating all of it because I appreciate every single one of my emotions. I appreciated the shame when the shame was there. I appreciate the guilt when the guilt was there. I appreciate the vanity when the vanity was there, and the boldness when the boldness was there. I appreciate all of those states because of the fact that without those states, I wouldn't know what it feels like to be floating on cloud nine, like I was in the past couple of days, just living.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying doing anything extra or nothing like that, just being. And then
Yeah.
talking with someone else, and then I feel like, and then that elevates me even more because I'm talking with another light being, And now we're
Mm.
generating more light, and I can feel that light as we're talking. And I'm like, this is what it means to be that cleansing of the clear, of the pureness that you just spoke about. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's what this is, because after every circumstance, I get to choose what I'm going to respond with. And I had an incident yesterday where someone brought this up to me. My mom's like, you're not really qualified to talk about that. And I was like, I understand that, but this kind of bothers me still. And it was someone, we were talking, it was my coworker, and she's like, people, we had a debate in regards to breastfeeding versus formula, and my body couldn't do the lactation. And I felt shame because one of our friends said, how could you? How could you go to formula? And I was like, hold up, wait a minute, let me put some church in it. That's not okay. And I had
Mm.
to let her know. I was like, girl, before the 1800s, dry nursing of the formula wasn't a thing. And babies were dying at an exponentially high rate. Unless you had the money enough to have wet nurses, which are the people that were able to do the lactation. And I was like, and the thing is, in regards to this shame, I apologized for them. And she's like, I'm thankful that I had one friend that said, I'm thankful that you actually knew that you needed to stop and switch it over to something else because it wasn't working. And that takes a lot of bravery. And for me, after that, here, because I'm Sharente, I'm just gonna let you know, Martin John, what this is what Sharente does when my love comes out. Is I made a TikTok video and I posted it everywhere to explain this, because I don't think people know this when they are saying these words of how dare you. No, some people have issues with lactation, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. And the thing is that if you shame somebody, that's your karma, and that's going to come back to bite you, and no one's going to be laughing, including you. And I said all that because I had to take that thing 10 times, because I was at a first part of saying F you, like on God, with some very evilness. Like, I'm not saying evil, something like it's not Sharente. I'm just gonna say from the fear point of view. Don't do this and all that fun stuff. And I had to, after recording it for 10 times, I had to keep changing my verbatim each time I recorded the video until I got it right. And when I say I got it right, it came out with love and only love. And sometimes for me, I have to take that step by step approach. It just is what it
Yeah.
is, especially if it's something that is near and dear to me. Of don't do something like that to somebody when you don't know the circumstances.
Yeah, like
So
there's always, like there's always the combining of two people, right? Like we do this all the time, right? Like we have this, like, you had an experience that you had that inspired you to make a TikTok, and you had an experience that brought up something within you, but they had an experience that brought up something within them as well, right? They had an experience that has nothing to do with you, right? Like
yeah.
their experience is unique, and if they, like you, are going back to the drawing board every day and saying, well, what is this, what is the message here for me, then they are able to coax their mind from the wandering and keep to the original oneness, as we see in this number 10, right? Because the wandering is the, like, your frustration, and then their, like, shame, the shame that they're putting on you, their frustration with what you're doing, your frustration with what they're saying, that's all wandering. The original oneness is this love and appreciation that we have for each other,
Oh yeah, and I will say
right?
this for me, that here on now I'm reflecting again, because here it came up because it's time to reflect again. Is
Hmm.
for me, it's someone else shaming someone else for the what their body is doing, and I have been shamed for what my body has done before, and it's because my body decided it was going to have lesions on the
Hmm.
outside of it. And people were like, oh, that's gross. That's STDs. And I was like, I don't have that. That would be
Yeah.
so much easier if I had that to
Yeah.
heal from. So
Hmm.
that's why I was like, for me, that's what also brought up for myself, which is why I'm like, no, don't shame anybody for their body, because how's your body doing in the
Well, I think,
retrospect?
like, and I think, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And when we can get to a place where we can keep to the original oneness, as we see here in this number 10 once again, then there is no shaming, right? The people that are shaming you are the people that are ashamed of their bodies, and or ashamed of something in their life, and then you having to experience that repeatedly, right? You experience that with your lesions, then you experience it again with the dry nursing, and then you may experience it again. And so these are all wanderings. And so
Hmm.
when we experience that wandering, we go back to the original oneness. What is the original oneness? The original oneness is that you are God, is that you are complete and full. And to be able to continue coming back to that and to learn, like you said earlier, all of the feelings, the anger and the shame and all of that are, and there is a Tao that states, we let circumstances complete us. And that's what's happening, right? These circumstances of your experience are completing this experience of your life. And that's the thing where it's like, we don't need to wander from that. And then I'm looking through this again, and we have like, can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but the light? Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course, not changing them, but allowing them? Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? So, your own mind being your singular experience, so that you can understand the experience of the whole.
Oh, I'm just listening at this point because I was
Yeah,
like, it feels like it's poetic words all coming back to me. And I will say, I appreciate here. I love how the Tao always here gets me in the right spot, if that makes any sense. And I will
yeah,
also say for me, is whenever I do any of my videos or anything like that, it's always with, I always end it with, I love you to infinity and beyond, especially if someone doesn't get told that someone else loves them. And that's
yeah,
just part of me and my brand because the fact that that is what my whole page is about. Yeah, I will be talking about forgiveness and stuff like that because that's a part of love. But I get to choose if that's going to be a kind way of saying it or more
mm,
of a forceful way. And I choose to do the kind way of explaining it where I can give the rationale and I can give the I love you and we can move on and have an amazing.
yes. Thank you so much. I just want to finish up this verse really quick, which states, acting with no expectations and leading and not trying to control. This is the supreme virtue. All of this comes in and is part of this supreme virtue. And when we can all come back and we can be within that oneness, be within that oneness within us, like that's the space when we can kind of embrace that supreme virtue. And really, like, that first line, like, can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? All of this, of like these expectations of others to care, these expectations of others to um, be, you know, better than they are, or whatever, as we understand that, like the original oneness, there is no improving upon it. It improves. There's no improving upon it. Okay, well, that is 10 from Sharente. Anybody else? Like, usually I have a couple people in mind. Nobody's stepping up. Anybody want to pick a number between 1 and 81? I saw that we did have somebody on Instagram that wanted to kind of step up. Oh, but nope, we have, Joseph. Let's see how your connection is today. Hopefully we get a good connection. Joseph, how are you doing?
Martin John, I'm just hoping that I'm not Max Headroom today.
No, you sound great. Yes, you sound great. Max Headroom. There's a blast from the past. I know he was the spokesperson for a soft drink, and I forget
No,
what
for
it was.
MTV. Well, first he was
Yes,
MTV, yes.
and then it was, I don't know if it was Pepsi, or he was definitely a soft drink spokesperson
Right,
for a time, but he
yeah.
was MTV's that guy for a minute.
For the younger
So
audiences, that was a long time ago. That was probably the 80s and 90s.
yeah, it was, 80s, definitely 80s. I don't think he made it into the 90s, but it would have been.
But you and I did,
Yes, we did, and beyond.
and beyond, right? And beyond.
So Joseph, let's dial it up. Do you have a number for me?
I'm going 7.
7. 7. The Tao is infinite, eternal. Why is it eternal? It was never born, thus it can never die. Why is it infinite? It has no desire for itself, thus it is present for all beings. The master stays behind. That is why she is ahead. She is detached from all things. That is why she is at one with them. Because she has let go of herself, she is perfectly fulfilled. That's it.
Yeah, that's not deep at all.
So let's like
Woo.
any what pops out at you, like what line maybe pops out at you first?
Oh gosh, there's so much there.
Anything there? Like I
Well,
know,
just the line that says that she's detached from everything and she's one. I don't remember the exact words,
yeah, she
but
is
that what
detached.
sounds like a
She's
paradox
detached
there,
from
right?
all things. That is why she is at one with them.
Yes,
You know, I
that's
was talking to
that
someone
sounds like a
about this the
paradox.
other day. This idea that when you are attached, when you are connected to something, you often are connected to it because you have an expectation of it. You know, you're connected because you understand it. You understand it as you do. And because you understand it, that is actually coming from your mind. It's not what it is a limit to what it can be. And so when you communicate with it, if you communicate with, let's say you have a child, I don't know if you do or not, but if
I
you have
do.
a
I have
son, okay.
two
So
daughters.
if you have a son and you understand your son and you go to your son and you say, hey, these are the things that I see that maybe you're making, maybe you're not making the right choice here. Well, you're approaching your son from the standpoint of thinking you understand him in total, but you can only understand what you see and have experienced. And your son may be a lot deeper than you can give him credit for because of the roles that you guys have played in each other's lives, because of the expectation you have as a father, because of all of these other things that are in the way. And so when it talks about being detached, when you can detach yourself from the relationship, when you can detach yourself from the outcome, you can you can be more present for him. Does that make sense?
It does, and so I, as a parent, and my kids are now 15 and 13. I think there is
My
qualitative.
condolences.
Well said. I think there's a qualitative difference between parenting when a child is growing and parenting when they are an adult. And this is a perhaps a thing that we all have to learn because as our kids grow, it's difficult to allow them to then make their own identity, make their own choices at some point. So all we can do is train them up the best we can on how to make good choices, right? Not necessarily what to think, but how to evaluate, how to understand, how to course correct, all those type of things. But that's one of the difficult things is at what point do you then release them, right? When do you kick them out of the nest and make them fly? That's a tough thing for a parent to figure that out, and also to detach. So I'm one with my
Hmm.
children, one with my family, but I also have to be detached. This is that same phrase,
Yeah.
so that I don't impose my will over my child. You know, I need to influence them, not control them.
Yeah, I talk about, as soon as we're born, because I come from the background of recovery and stuff. I talk a lot about this idea of living under the influence. Like your children live under your influence,
Right.
and the interesting thing is like 14 is the time that I say, and so your children are on both sides of this. You got 13 and 15. And so,
Right.
you know, when I look at 14, I look at like this is the beginning of the end of your parenting, right? Like this is like they are moving into a space where they're going to look at the world from a more logical place rather than a place of relationship. And actually, your relationship with your children is going to start to, separate. Like, and they're going to pull away. They're going to pull away in a way that is that they're gonna take your influence with them, but they're gonna try and be adults now. And I see this so often, like at 14, 13, 14, like they start staying in the room more, they start doing those things that are just like
Yep.
separate more. They
Yeah.
and and really understanding that like what they're doing is being themselves, and they're trying to separate themselves, but understand that your influence is still there. And now it's about supporting them in stepping away from your influence, rather than trying to, because it's going to be there anyway, but supporting them in their actions. And when you can detach yourself from the outcome, and when you can detach yourself from your fears for them or around them, or your fears in your life that you want them to avoid, when you can detach yourself from that, you can be at one with them, and you can love them deeper than just through the eyes of a parent. You can love them through the eyes of the singularity, right? The oneness that you are connected with them with. And it could be detached, but much deeper. And I know that sounds paradoxical, but when you can love somebody for who they are and who they will become, rather than who you want them to be or who you expect them to become.
Right. Yeah. So just to push back a little bit,
Please.
parenting
I'm not a
doesn't.
parent, so
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
No. So from my perspective, anyway,
Hmm.
parenting never ends. It doesn't end at age 14. It doesn't end at age 54. It's just that it's redefined. So
Right.
I have much more in the formative years of my children. I have much more responsibility for helping them understand how to make good choices. My influence is much different than when they are becoming more self-determined and self-aware. And then I become more of a mirror where my
Yeah.
job as a parent then is to show them, help them see clearly what it is they are becoming so that they can make better choices and understand that there are consequences and that there are rewards for their choices, and help them realize that the inward growth is as important or more important than the outward growth. All the things that we learn as adults, now we have to hold that mirror up. But at first, it's more like a glass. So I'm saying to my little children, follow me, model me. I will show you whether I'm intentional about it or not. They're going to become whatever I model for them, not what I say. But then
Right.
eventually the glass gets more and more opaque and it becomes a mirror. Now I'm showing them themselves so that
Yeah.
they can embrace who they are. I don't ever stop being a parent. It's just that my
Right.
definition and my role as a parent changes.
Yeah, and I toss that word around mainly because I'm not a parent, and I know that that's different. Like, you'll never stop being a parent, but I always look at it like you're no longer the parent of a child. You know what I mean? And that's the like they and I agree that that's changing. It changes every day. Like what you need to be, and maybe your 15-year-old's going to come home and going to be like, what, I need you to be the parent that you were when I was 5, and that's okay too. Like just the ebb and the flow of that from day to day, and being present with those people that you love, whether they're your children or your neighbors or your partner or whoever it is. Like it's always flowing and growing and shifting. Oh, did I didn't know that you. It seems like that was a short period of time. I don't know. Did your time run out?
I didn't time out, but this is a ironic synchronicity, whatever you want to call it. As we're talking about parenting, my 13-year-old is yelling for me from the other end of the house. So I had to leave the conversation and attend to her so that I could come back and join you again.
Okay, I see, I see.
Perfect
Okay,
timing.
so I was like, "Wow, how did that happen?" Okay, so as we go through this, the Tao is infinite, eternal. Why is it eternal? It was never born, thus it can never die. Why is it infinite? It has no desire for itself, thus it is present for all beings. And so, always when we talk about being a master, which we will move into in the next phrase, we're always talking about a master is one who follows the Tao. And so, and the Tao exists within you, and so you have access to the Tao, meaning you have access to this thing that was never born and will never die, and you have access to something that has no desire for itself. Thus, it is present to all for all beings. Now we move on to the master. This is you. This is the individual. The master stays behind. That is why she is ahead. And then we move into this line that we've been focused on. She is detached from all things. That is why she is at one with them. How do you take the stays behind? That is why she is ahead. How can you see that as it relates to parenting?
Well, the first thought that comes to my mind is Yoda from from Star Wars, especially in that
Mm-hmm.
first movie, right? So Yoda has the wisdom, he has the experience, he's the teacher, and yet he stays behind to let his student, or I guess Luke took off a little bit early, right? He wasn't ready, according to Yoda. But Yoda didn't go fight the battle. He empowered Luke and trained him to become the warrior and go on his own hero's journey. So this is part of the wisdom of parenting as well, right? Is that my instinct is to want to make my daughters' lives happy and comfortable and protect them from all negative influences and shield them from pain. And yet I say right out of that my same mouth, it is through the pain of life that I grow and I learn and I become stronger. And so, well, there's a huge dichotomy and irony there. I want to shield my children from the things that will actually help them the most, right? so,
Right.
so that to me that's the wisdom of the Tao as you're speaking about it is I have to embrace my new role is not Luke anymore, which is what I wanted to be when I was younger. Now I've had my journey. I need to become the Yoda for my kids, where I impart the wisdom that I've learned, but they have to experience their own journey for them to grow and to grow stronger and become, their ultimate selves and the best expression of who they are.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I love how that comes together with the master stays behind. That is why she is ahead. She is detached from all things. She's attached from the and she is detached from how they're going to learn it. You have done your part as parent. You have done your part to stand up and impart your wisdom. And now they have to go out, whether impulsively or whether cautiously or however they're going to do it. They're going to do it in their way. And that's why you can be at one with them. They can always come to you. They can always come back and 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 touch base. And like Yoda, at that point you're gonna be like, yeah, your training is done. Like it was important for you to continue to make your choices, and I'm here to support, and I'm here to be a safety net or whatever that needs to be. But I'm here for you, and I can be at one with you. And then we have this last line: because she has
Let me
let
let me
go of
let me
her.
jump in.
Go on,
Let me jump in
please.
real quick before we move on.
Yeah.
So to take this Yoda metaphor or Obi-Wan even, not only did Yoda and Obi-Wan eventually stay behind and push the hero into their own journey, but they were still with them in their head or their heart or however you want to describe that.
Yeah.
They, Luke still had access to that wisdom and the love from his masters, his teachers, or to put it in the parenting thing, right? My kids will always have access to me and my wisdom and my love when they so choose. So I don't force it upon them. I don't impose it upon them, but I am immediately available to share it with them when they ask for it.
And there's also this thing keeps coming to mind, and I'm gonna run this by you and see if this resonates. You know, Obi-Wan, I think, was said like, in my death, like I will be more powerful, right? Like,
Yeah, that's what I said to
and
Darth Vader, right?
yeah, and I think that like we look at this as I look at death as it relates to the Tao, it's like the death of your identity, the death of like that who you think you are, so that you can become one with more things. And so you shed the identity. You die. Your identity dies, and you can come back, not holding on to an identity, but being at one with all things. This is where this last line comes in. She has let go of herself. She is perfectly fulfilled. And then you can let go of the identity of who you can, like, let go of the identity of father. You can let go of the identity of Joseph as you see yourself, so that you can be seen through them.
That's interesting. So if we talk about death specifically, my life will live on through my children, whether for better or for worse, right? So there's a part of me that becomes them, right? It's becoming them all along. But I also think this death of self, this death of identity, I think there's another side to this. At least this is what I'm learning currently.
Hmm.
I heard this fabulous interview between Tom Bilyeu and Todd Herman. And Todd Herman authors a book that just came out called Alter Ego, and he describes in great depth and way better than I will. I'll murder it today, but how we as humans have the incredible, unique superpower of being able to dawn an identity for the context that we're in. We get to choose that. And he makes the example of, when I'm in the boardroom or I'm coaching a high performance client, I'm a different persona than when I walk through the door and my little boys want to play. Because if I was the same energy and the same persona at work as I am at home, my boys are not going to like that. Or if I'm the playful guy at work, nobody's going to take me seriously. And he's talking about how oftentimes we limit our own identity by saying I'm just one thing. Well, that's in our mind, right? And so
Right.
the death of self to me is evolving to think that it doesn't mean that I cease to exist, but that I realize the infinite potential of donning the persona that I want to be or that is needed for any given context, not in an inauthentic way, but
Right.
in expressing the infinite possibilities of who I am.
And not and as I see it, not necessarily compartmentalizing, understanding that even in the boardroom there needs to be playfulness, and this the persona that I am putting out there isn't limited to what I think it's supposed to be, but it is me being here present in all of my forms. And yes, I could lean into one or the other, but understanding also that, like, I don't have to limit myself to that singular identity. That's what comes up for me.
Yeah, but I think the wisdom here, to put us in right into our app, the wisdom is that understanding the clarity that which of the infinite multifaceted parts of me, personas or identities, is most beneficial, is required in this moment. Which one should I
Yeah.
lean into now so that I can have maximum impact for the positivity, for the good, both for myself and for others, rather than thinking I need to bring all the facets of myself into every moment because that's the only way to be authentic. I think drives me crazy sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, I see that. I see that. Yeah, you don't want to, like, I don't think, like, because I talk to people differently on this. I mean, if you listen to one whole like recording of the Tao of the Day, I talk to people very differently depending on who they are, and
Sure.
my energy and the energy that is connected to that which I am, that energy with the person that I am connected to. So yeah, I talk very differently, but depending on who it is and what I am experiencing. So yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, so that's the mirroring thing. Sometimes we do that intentionally because because we realize that's what the other person needs. Sometimes we do it unconsciously, right? And we're
Right.
taking on the other person's energy, whether we think that's best or not, just because we are either overcome with intimidation or admiration or whatever that might be. And so that's a whole nother discussion. But I think that's interesting how we morph sometimes out of intention and sometimes just out of resolution or can't think of the right word, just out of habit.
Right. Or we don't shift at all. We don't, like, we're
Yeah,
always that
yeah, right.
one person, and we don't know how to move from one to another. And that's, being detached, as we're saying here, like, she is detached from all things. That is why she is at one with them. Like, you're not attached to an outcome. You're not attached to even who you are. You are detached from that so that you can be at one with whatever is in front of you, and whatever mode that looks like.
I
Because
love
she
the
has let go of herself, she is perfectly fulfilled.
yeah, yeah. So the idea of letting go of outcomes, being perfectly fulfilled, these two things to me are hand in hand. And I was just listening to Neil Donald Walsh talking about awakening the species. He's the guy that had the Conversations with God books. And
Mm,
he was talking about unconditional love, which is what we all long for, is not transactional, right? We don't give to get. we get to give. So it's an opportunity to give all that I have to give without any expectation in return, which to me sounds awesome but impossible sometimes.
Right.
Um, but I think of Henry Nouwen, who's a fabulous writer, and he was a priest for a while. And he's just got these amazing reflections. He worked for many years as a chaplain in a hospital ward of mentally ill patients who were terminally ill. And so he talked about in that context, he had to let go of the expectation of getting something, a reward or a return for his investment into these lives, because they were incapable of it. And he said actually became the most beautiful freedom he ever found, where he actually could experience love that was not transactional. And then he talks about when his wife was terminally ill, and towards the very end, he would go into her room and hold her hand and talk to her and try to love her, and express his love. And she didn't even know he was in the room or didn't recognize him or called him something different. And his friends would say, "Oh, that must be excruciating." And he said, "It's liberating because for the first time in my marriage, which was like 60 years or something, our love is no longer a transaction. I am loving her out of pure love." And I'm learning, and I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. And that's I so much see that when we talk about the Tao and just dying to yourself as you understand yourself to be something more, and to reach a new place, and to reach a new understanding of what is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really glad that we had no glitches, and we had a really nice, smooth digital transaction.
You too. You too. I look forward to sharing more of these times with you.
Yes, we shall. We shall. Thank you. Okay, we are moving on. If anybody else has a number between 1 and 81, I would love to have you on and give me, if anybody wants to step up. I love what I'm doing. I love this Dale. Man, all my, I didn't, if I had, yeah, Charente, Graciela, Joseph, everybody came on, had beautiful numbers. And yeah, if, if nobody else comes on, I can actually start to wind things down. If nobody wants to step up. Once again, I'm Martin John, the Recovery Mentor. I host the Recover Yourself podcast. If you guys are benefiting from this, definitely hit me up on. I would love a tip. Why don't you hit me up on Venmo at Martin John _Garcia, and you can leave a tip for me. Just anything is always welcome. This is what I'm doing here on Wisdom for free. I'm also going to be doing it on Instagram as well. I don't know if I'll always be doing it on Instagram, but I want to start bringing people over to Wisdom, especially because it's going to be starting on Android soon, and so things are going to be changing. Just because I'm an Android user, so I might be able to actually do this on my hikes and other stuff like that. But who knows? I really like the limiting nature of having it on my iPad, which doesn't have service outside of Wi-Fi. So that's a nice thing for me. If anybody wants to step up in these last couple moments and pick a number, I'd be happy to share another Tao for the day. You can also find all of my Tao of the Days on Spotify under the Tao of the Day podcast. I have over 120 episodes I've been recording, and all of them from way back in the beginning. My first Tao Day Ching Chats, before I actually started calling them Tao of the Day, is are on there, and you can check out. If you go to my site, if you go to martinjohn.com, I have a way that you can search under my wisdom talks. You can search certain numbers. So if you do the number sign and then the number that you want, you'll be able to access all of the episodes that I cover that number. So if your number today is 19 and I'm not available, you can always go there. Go to my website, martinjohn.com, check out the Wisdom Talks, search #19, and you'll get all of the episodes in which I cover 19. So if that's your number, you'd be able to gain some insight that way. All right. Well, I love you guys. It's so awesome to be here. It's so awesome to be able to share the Tao. Thank you, Graciela and Charente and Joseph, for sharing the Tao with me today. Thank you, everybody that checked me out on Instagram as well. Once again, if you guys are benefiting from my content, consider giving a financial donation to me over at Venmo at at martinjohn_Garcia. Thank you so much. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.